Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down, and back for a little more Spooktober action. That's right, man. It is October 8th as I sit here and talk to you, and we missed the first 7 days of October, but don't you worry. I was watching scary and spooky movies every single day, and now today we're just getting caught up on the reviews. The goal this Spooktober for the old Seaman is to watch and review 31 horror Halloween movies. And so far we've been off and running, with some classics. Just shift gears into some newer movies with 1BR on October 4th. And on the 5th, I said, let's stay in that newer horror realm and jump into a series that I blew past back in 2017 when the first one dropped. This movie came out then. And because of Bella Thorne's appearance in it, I was like, I'm a skip out. Nothing against Bella Thorne, just not my personal cup of tea when it comes to acting. And I skipped it, and then a sequel came out, and I was like, they sequelized that movie? Was it that good? Was it worth a sequel? And I decided to go and look back, and Samara Weaving is the lead in the original. And I'm like, you missed the bus on that one, because I'm actually a pretty big Samara Weaving fan. So I decided to jump in, and this movie surprised me and was actually pretty good, which then got me to watch the second one, which we'll talk about for October 6th. So why don't you pull up a chair, man, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into The Babysitter. That's right, a Netflix kind of thriller that I totally just blew past because I didn't think it was going to be that good or taken that seriously. And man, was I surprised when I watched this movie. One, Bella Thorne's role, fairly minimal, and two, this movie not only has some decent scares, but it's got like a massive amount of heart. Like, you got the old Seaman to roll a tear toward the end of this thing, like no joke. It really sucker punched me and pulled me in emotionally. And as the name of the movie suggests, this follows a babysitter, B, played by Samara Weaving, who is the babysitter for this kid named Cole, played by Judah Lewis, who's, kind of picked on quite a bit, and B is like a popular, say, senior, and he's like a freshman, and she just has, like, not only, like, a love, but a respect for Cole, and is always nice and always cool to him, always makes him feel wanted, always plays into the things that he's interested in, watching old movies, anything that makes Cole, B is totally here for it. And it's one of the things that you just love about Samara Weaving. She is an absolute sweetheart. And she plays it that way, man. Like the attractive, intelligent, cool, like queen of high school, more or less, is someone who's actually a nice person. Until one night when, Cole was talking to a friend of his, and she's like, do you ever stay up, like, past when B goes to bed? Cole's fairly sheltered, doesn't understand, like, certain sex things. There's some funny stuff with his mom and sex words that are pretty funny. But because he's fairly sheltered, his friend is like, she has her boyfriend come over, and they definitely do stuff. So he opts to stay up one night to see if that's what's really going on with B. And she has people over, but it is not what this kid would expect. The next thing you know, he has found himself straight in the middle of a satanic ritual. And from that point forward, it's a bit of just an absurdity with itself. Like, there are definitely elements that are ridiculous and ludicrous, and the movie plays into those because it's a comedy as much as it is a thriller, and that balance really works for the movie, being able to have laughs, specifically through people like Robbie Amell or Andrew Batchelor. They just have moments that are really kind of laugh out loud funny, and we'll get into everybody. But they all have these moments that really pop and that make you laugh while also being extremely scary. And what's cool is how the movie plays with those ridiculous ideas by the end of the movie, and overall, you end up with a pretty decent thriller that's got some pretty solid laughs, and like I said, some twists that by the end you're like, wait, what? And also, you know, a twist that is gut-wrenching to someone who's watching the movie emotionally. And director McG does a really fantastic job here. I like the production quality. I like the vision of his direction. The pacing of the movie is really pretty spot on. And you know, McG takes us into some really interesting places in this world that we're playing in. Written by Brian Duffield. You know, it's a pretty, you know, simple, straightforward story. Babysitter, satanic ritual, kid sees it, gets pulled into all of this when he maybe wasn't necessarily supposed to really be pulled into this. And you get all these kind of scares and thrills and a lot of edge of your seat moments. I mean, McG there's a scene where he's in a different house, not his house. And Cole and his friend are in one spot and Samara Weaving is in another. And they do kind of one of these, like, you're walking and I'm moving bits. Legitimately, like, on the edge of your seat stuff. So I was really quite impressed with McG. I think he did quite a good job at having a movie that knows how to have fun while also playing to all of the horror elements. And I mean, I don't think it should be a surprise that McG is able to create a world that really pops on screen. It's another thing where if I would have seen McG's name when it originally came out, I probably would have jumped in. You know, he doesn't always knock it out of the park, but it's definitely made some movies that I really dug. You know, the original Charlie's Angels, We Are Marshall. This is a guy who knows how to have fun, knows how to handle the serious stuff, and knows clearly how to handle some of the horror elements. But so much of this movie rests on the shoulders of its cast. And as I said, I'm a big fan of Samara Weaving. I think she really does a great job as the babysitter. She gets you to buy in. Like I said, she's that sweet, genuine babysitter who really cares about a kid who's not the popular kid. And that stuff really you buy into not only her, but that relationship. So when things go kind of sideways, it hits you. And Samara's delivery and all of that is just spot on. And then when you get to the end of the movie, like I said, I rolled a tear because Samara Weaving's performance is spectacular. But it's not just her performance. Young Mr. Judah Lewis crushes this thing as Cole. I think, like I said, he's supposed to be like a freshman, so he's probably like right in that 12, 13, 14 range, and feels it. You know, it's nice when you have a movie that features a kid that is an actual kid. And Lewis does a really good job of playing that non-popular, kind of nerdy, weak type of kid, and when thrust into the situation that he's thrust into, he has to become something different. He's got to find his own bravery and be strong and figure ways to get out of this situation. And Lewis really nails all of that stuff. Like, his performance is what really sold me on being like, I'm a fan of The Babysitter. And when you get to that emotional moment at the end, as much as it's Samara Weaving who's selling it, Judah Lewis sells it like where your heart literally breaks apart. It's a beautiful scene in a movie that I would not have expected a serious, beautiful scene to take place. But Lewis does a really good job in everything that he's asked. You know, he obviously plays the scared stuff really well. But when he's got to kind of nut up and be brave, he finds ways to get through that. And how he takes out the characters that are trying to get him. Some of it is kind of an accident or by sheer chance. Some of it is planned and absolutely crazy. And he's able to flow with all that stuff and is the real reason the movie works. That relationship between him and Samara Weaving is really strong, and Samara Weaving is great. But Judah Lewis is what made this movie for me. And then the supporting cast is just a ton of fun. You got Robbie and Mel in here, and he is shirtless guy. it's a trope to his character where like blood gets on his shirt pretty early on when something crazy kind of happens, and he takes it off and he is shirtless the rest of the movie, and somebody who can rock a shirt off for an entire movie. And they play into that kind of jock element to you know, Max, and it's really funny. Robbie Amell's comedic timing is spot on. I absolutely loved him on Upload, which popped on Amazon way back at the beginning of the pandemic. But he really does land the comedic stuff well. His comedic timing is really, really on point. And he does crazy, scary, pretty cool well, too. And he has a moment with Cole that's just priceless and kind of gives you an element of a soft spot for his character too, because there's a situation where he can do one thing and he does something else, and you're like, all right, Max, like, you're still a bad guy, but you're not as bad or as much of a dick as I thought you were. So I really enjoyed Robbie Amell's performance. As I said, Andrew Bachelor provides another stitch of the humor in the movie, being the lone black guy in the film, and he brings up the fact that, like, when horror things start going down, he's like, nah, I ain't, no, man, like, we see how these things go. We're not going there. And he plays all that stuff quite well, and overall, Bachelor's personality is just something that shines on screen. He's got a lot of charisma, a lot of natural charm and humor, just to the way he does things. And his delivery is hysterical the whole movie. But the things that happen to him, and specifically things that they set up that end up playing in the sequel, just stuff that I really liked. Shockingly, when you're talking about humor in this movie, Bella Thorne delivers some pretty funny stuff. She is the head cheerleader, kind of not very smart, popular girl in high school. And she plays to all of those tropes quite a bit. But one thing that happens to her, they kind of come back to a few times, is pretty funny. And her lunacy and kind of just batshit craziness in the movie also actually works pretty well. And I ended up not hating her performance too much. But sneaky, winner here, and she is a sneaky winner in every movie she shows up. Hannah Mae Lee plays a character named Sonia, and let's just say that Hannah Mae Lee has some very particular things that she's able to do as far as acting. Specifically, she doesn't need to speak very much. You would know her from the Pitch Perfect movies. She's the Asian girl who doesn't really say anything. So she is all facial. I mean, her eyes and her facial expressions are what pop the most for her. And she utilizes those elements through the whole movie. And she has one really scary kind of like, oh crap moment with Cole that, like, you sit there and you're like, oh man, she's crushing it right now. And then it has an absolutely absurd ending. But that group of high school students who are chasing Cole the whole movie, they all bring it, and they all really supply really nice moments, both from the comedic side and from the horror element side. And last but not least, we have Emily Elyn Lind, who ends up playing the girl across the street, girl next door, so to speak, that Cole kind of has a crush on. And she nails all of that stuff. She's in the movie very, very little, but she is someone who genuinely seems to care about Cole. Has a lot of the same characteristics as B, which is interesting because it's like his two loves. Like, he's, in love with B, but also has kind of probably always been in love and crushing on Melanie, who is his age. So to watch that for Cole is kind of fun. And Emily Lynn does a really good job with that stuff for the minimal amount she's in. She is actually in that scene where they're working around as Samara's kind of walking around. And she nails the things that they ask her to do. Yeah, so I mean, this entire group of high school students, they pop, man. They bring the comedy, they bring the scares, the intensity and the thrills, and really work quite well as a unit on screen. I like watching this group on screen. But we can't forget Cole's parents. They have a minimal role in this movie, but fantastic every time I see these two on screen in anything. We got Leslie Bibb playing his mom and Ken Marino playing his dad. Ken Marino, what an interesting career this guy has had, because he had a very, very specific kind of like, I'm the frat guy, and I'm pounding beers, and like that type of stuff when he was younger. He would constantly pop up in comedies and raunchy comedies and be that guy. And since becoming an adult in the world of acting, and like his characters are more adult than childish, he almost always plays a dad. It's really quite funny, and I love watching him play a dad. And a lot of times he plays like the nerdier realm of a dad, and it's polar opposite to the things that I grew up with Ken Marino, but nails that stuff. He's so good at being dads in these kind of horror comedies or action comedies. I love seeing it. And him and Leslie Bibb provide some really nice moments. You get some really good stuff out of Marino, and like I said, you get that moment at the beginning with Leslie Bibb that involves like sexual terms and things being said that kind of can be misconstrued. Just some really funny stuff from the two of them. So overall, The Babysitter ended up being a pretty good movie for me. Like I said, it's got the chills and the thrills. It's got a decent horror plot line. It's got a solid director in McG who adds an element of, you know, style to the movie that really amplifies everything that's going on. It's got a great cast who all deliver on a pretty decent story, and the kills are fantastic. The way Cole takes these people out throughout the movie is hysterical. Because some of them are intentional, some of them are inadvertent. And as the whole movie just kind of plays out, all of the kills and the blood and gore, if you were into that type of horror movie, is there for you. And that is another thing that spoke to me, because I live for bad horror movies just to see the ridiculous ways in which people will die. So if you can give me a good horror movie with those ridiculous deaths, everything I'm looking for. So Babysitter was a win for me. The question is, was it for you? Did you skip The Babysitter back when it came out, or did you watch it and were you pleasantly surprised, or this one fall really, really short for you? Anything you're thinking about The Babysitter, its cast, McG's direction, its production and style, anything you're thinking about the film, good or bad, down below in the comments section. As always, if you enjoyed this review and video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old C-Man? But you haven't yet? Why don't you come join the C-Maniacs, man? Jump over there. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that little bell so you get alerts. And until next time, for the C-Man Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man, and I'm signing off. Peace! Well, oh, B, you guys are still here? You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. C-Man's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the C-Man goodies, join the Cinema Sit Down squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.